Hello, everyone, and welcome to the KubeCon Digest webinar from Portworx. For those of you who know Portworx, you know that this is a staple webinar that we here at Portworx do every year. Every year we attend KubeCon, and we attend KubeCon EMEA, and we attend KubeCon Americas, and we do a roundup of what we heard, what we saw, and even what we did not hear at an event like KubeCon. So think of this as a cheat sheet for those of you who could not go to KubeCon, or for those who did go to KubeCon and didn't catch all the news. Think of this as the new news that you didn't get to hear. This year, KubeCon Americas was hosted in lovely Salt Lake City out of Utah. And we'd like to bring you in on what happened at this event. But before we do that, let me do a few quick introductions here. My name is Kalyan Ramanathan. I'm the VP of Marketing at Portworx, and I'm joined by my two wonderful co-hosts today, Nathan Wood and Catherine Su. Nathan, do you want to do the honors and do a quick introduction?
So Kalyan, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I believe in ladies first. That's how we operate in South. So I'm going to hand it over to Catherine and let her go first, and then I'll follow it up.
All right, that's so kind of you, Nathan. So my name's Catherine Shu. I'm Director of Product Marketing here at Portworx. Very much enamored with the cloud native space. We've been kicking around here for about a decade and excited to cover some of the KubeCon topics out here today. And Nathan, over to you.
Hi, everybody. I appreciate it. This is awesome. As I mentioned, I'm Nathan Wood. I lead the cloud native architects for North America and US Federal. And as you can see behind me, this is beautiful Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. That's where I'm based, but I'm also here this week for Super Compute. So if you guys are out here, come and see me in the Pure booth. Super stoked to be here, talk about KubeCon. I'm excited about our content today.
And Nathan, you told me that this is your first KubeCon, right? So there's an added twist to this event.
Absolutely. I'm a long time purveyor or attendee of a lot of different shows across North America. KubeCon was not one I've never been before, and so to be able to go this year, it was amazing, right? I know we'll get into it. I don't want to gush all up front, but it was fantastic. It was wonderful. And Salt Lake City, man, you mentioned it. Salt Lake was beautiful too. So really enjoyed that.
All right, wonderful. So let's get into the agenda of this presentation and what did we hear, or did not hear for that matter, at KubeCon. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to start out with day zero. Now, day zero happens to be the day for many vendor events. It also happens to be the day where there are many special interest groups at KubeCon that happen to have their own events. Then we get to the core days, right? Core days is where many of the core topics get discussed. And no surprise there, AI is the theme of this event, right? We did touch on security, we did touch on community, and there was one topic that I think that at least the three of us thought was a glaring miss. So we will definitely talk about that as we go through the agenda today. There were 9,000 people at Salt Lake City, and when you have 9,000 people that come together for an event like this, there's always something interesting that happens. There was people watching, there was booth watching, there's even dog watching. So we'll talk about that in our showcase best. And then finally, we will leave you with our key takeaways and time permitting for a few questions and answers too.
Kalyan, I love all these teasers that you're giving the guys, like the whole dog thing, all the other things that are there. You get all these teasers for what's coming up. It's fantastic.
There you go, man. There you go. Yeah, we have to make this event interesting. So let's get started with day zero, right? So day zero started on, I think, Tuesday morning. There was a brief dusting of snow, which made Salt Lake City even more magical and beautiful. You could see snow all over the mountains out there. I spent the day at a SUSE workshop. SUSE, as many of you know, is a key orchestration vendor, a key Kubernetes vendor in this space. But I'd love to know, Nathan and Catherine, how did you guys spend day zero?
I spent it actually with. Are you able to hear me? I spent the day with some of our customers. Okay, with at the Portworx workshop, but some of the other things I actually really wanted to check out were some of the more vendor neutral capabilities. I think in the past few years, what we've seen is Kubernetes is, of course, is a really extensible platform, but you see on the right here, that's just a smattering of some of the additional co-located day zero events. Day zero events, they don't have that big keynote, but you can really see how large this ecosystem has gotten, not just from a Kubernetes perspective and an open source project perspective, but all of the other vendors that you'd mentioned. There's SUSE, there's us, of course, there's Red Hat and some of the other capabilities there. And I think when we start calling it day zero, all we're doing is like zero indexing the vector of the entire conference. Like it's a full day. This place is packed and there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome, right? There were so many different things that you could go and do. And as Kalyan mentioned, there was a great dusting of snow. It was a welcome to Salt Lake, right? And say, hey, merry early Christmas. And so we got a little bit of snow in the morning, and then it turned into sleet and then rain. And so you would think that would slow people down, right? But it didn't. It didn't. These were all over the city. These weren't just in the hotels. The host hotel was awesome, the Hyatt. And then we had the convention center that was connected to it. But these different events were all over the city at different hotels and different venues. And so to OpenShift Commons from Red Hat was the first one I went to in the morning. Hoping to see some friends there, and sat in for some great presentations that they had. And there's actually a photo here of some of our team at working the crowd there at their table. So I took some pictures of them and had some great conversations around OpenShift and some of the technologies that are continuing to expand on that platform. And so that was great. And then I went over, and the second thing I went to, which is where I stayed, because OpenShift Commons was great. They had a really good lunch, but I thought, maybe this event from Portworx would have a better lunch. And boy, was I right. I went over to a place. We had it at a local bar that had this great loft area. It was like this custom brewery and had a great loft area. And so we had this awesome, kind of view of downtown Salt Lake City and all that kind of stuff. And we had, we did a couple of workshops for customers and different things like that. Had a great conversation with a customer while I was there, while we ate lunch, and we had fantastic food, which was spectacular. And it was just it was an awesome day zero to not only have the of Salt Lake City, right, and mixing that in with a little bit of snow and rain, but then this just the collaborative community of people that were OpenShift Commons, people that were at the workshop events, even back at the hotel, having great conversations in the lobby. Like you could sit down in the lobby and start a conversation with somebody, and they were all into it, and it was fantastic. And it, again, Kalyan mentioned at the outset that this was my first KubeCon, and so I didn't know what to expect. You go to some shows and people are reserved, and they don't talk to you necessarily, but this show was all about community. It was really wonderful. So that was my day zero. I had an awesome time.
Yeah, I would say anyone who is planning, anyone who is like planning to come to a future KubeCon, I would absolutely book yourself an extra day earlier, maybe even more so. Just because, as Nathan mentioned, I talked to a ton of people, and some of them just said, I'm not even here for the breakout sessions and the tracks. I'm here to meet with other people facing the same problems and get to know some other folks in the community. But you fly out the day before day zero, hit all of these. These are single day tracks on the right. And even so, stuff that's, I think, Cloud Native rejects for rejected KubeCon talks is even earlier than day zero. It's almost your day -1. There's a lot of options out here. So if you're making a whole week of it, might as well throw some extra time on here.
And Catherine, I think we're actually going to do it next year here in beautiful, normally sunny and wonderful Atlanta. And
we
so
are.
You guys can come. I will be your host. Let me know. Link, get me on LinkedIn, and I will come be your host. I'll give you the best places to eat. We can talk about cool places to go, but come in early, come in the weekend before, be here for day zero. KubeCon's going to be a riot, and just know, you got Nathan down here in Atlanta. So we're here to help you out.
There you go. So day zero was so much fun. Let's talk about day one, right? So this is the core day where the actual tracks get started. So, and as I mentioned before, right? I mean, the theme of just about every event that you go to today is AI, and more AI. And so KubeCon was not very different. I know, Nathan, you attended this day and spent a bit of time looking at some of these keynotes. What stood out for you, man?
Well, I don't think you can go anywhere these days and not talk about AI. I think it's like a legal requirement that even your Uber driver has to ask you about AI when you show up at a tech convention. But what was really interesting was the continued growth of the view that AI is a platform. It's not an application. It's not a one hit wonder. It's a platform that we have to consider as we build out everything. And that it has all the concerns that a platform would have: security, right? Observation and management. All of the different components that you have to have as part of a platform, you have to have as part of AI. And I thought that was one of the things that hit home for me most, was some of the conversations that we heard about that, and the keynote's focus on those items and how we can better leverage and better utilize our existing tech, the GPUs and other things like that, and the platform. So it was really good, like a swath and spread around how we would do that. And some of the sessions that I attended were similar. I went to one that was done by Intuit, and they've won the Community Choice Award a couple of years, I think in 2022, maybe 2023, and they've won it, I think, in 2016 as well. They won it a couple of times, and they talked about use of Argo and continuous deployment and how they would be able to leverage that. And that was a great session. Just a lot of great creative concepts about how to leverage your GPUs, how to continue with continue rolling out with that continuous development, continuous deployment architecture, and just a lot of great stuff, a lot of great content about how to really build that into your overall architecture with that platform focus.
Yeah, I think, Catherine, one of the things that sort of stood out for me was, this tight binding, I would say, between Kubernetes and AI, right? It just looks like just about every AI artifact, right? Whether it's the models, whether it's the vector databases, whether it's many of these AI utilities, and even the data pipeline, right? All of these things today are being distributed as, as containers within Kubernetes, right? So Kubernetes is becoming the default platform in some sense, the operating system to run AI. So CNCF has, I think, definitely gotten a hold of that, and they want to make sure that that tight binding continues. Did you hear anything else, Catherine, on day one?
Yeah, honestly, I felt like I had a little bit of an existential crisis when it comes to Kubernetes. I think, Nathan, you had mentioned that we sometimes think of it as a developer tool, but sometimes we think of it as an infrastructure tool. And I was like, which is it? But it really is, like, I think the glue between. I think if you sat in on the first day keynote, they had demonstrated something called Q, which is essentially resource management to maximize GPU utilization at scale, and they were using out at CERN. And there was actually a follow-up keynote where it talked about something called multi-Q and running this in a multi-cluster configuration, which is increasingly important. So I think, to your point, Kalyan, there's development and making sure that you consume AI and that you're running inference appropriately, and that you've got an ML ops portion of things that requires some data infrastructure. But what we also see is there's hardware disruption and being able to maximize your utilization overall. So it's like you have to manage the actual hardware and connect that with the development and the ML ops and data pipelines that are coming in. Now, one of the other keynote speakers actually spoke about all of the things that you need to enable an AI, and they're kind of listed out here. And that little blue square on the right is actually meant to be, what are those things? You need your model. You're going to need some sort of foundational database. Then you deploy that to infrastructure and get some operations and observability and other capabilities once that's actually deployed. And then maybe you can actually write your application and make sure that's out there. And that's all just to get tinkering out there. Of course, at Portworx, we're going to put as much of that at your fingertips as possible with things like Portworx data services to get deployed databases on Kubernetes. But I think the overall takeaway that I found from an AI perspective was, yes, it was literally half more of all of the breakouts and the keynotes itself. But there was a lot of emphasis on making sure that you can manage those hardware disruptions and maximize utilization, as well as just meeting your developers where they are and increasing your productivity overall that way.
Man, I think, we are all so passionate about all of these topics. I think we can talk for like 30 minutes on each of these slides. All so right. We may just want to hurry up a little bit so that we get through all of these things in like 30 minutes or so. So the day two, the theme was on security. And I know, Catherine, you spent a bit of time looking at the keynotes here? What stood out for you here?
A lot of emphasis on securing AI. Actually, it was another spin on AI from what I could see. There was, I think a new project here from Envoy Gateway, AI Gateway from, I think Tetrate's the company they were working with Bloomberg. So that's what you see up there. But then there's another project that Solo.io had donated with this Kubernetes Gateway AI during their sponsored portion of the keynote. But I think you guys had actually brought up something really interesting around the SBOM and then some of the prompt injection observability pieces. What were the things you guys took away from the security piece of things?
Well, that was my thing. There was like, I forget which speaker it was, but she had put up there that, basically somebody had used Confluence in order to be able to put up the CEO is an idiot. And then the prompt basically picked that up and then included that into the model in order to be able to spit that back out when somebody asked about something later on. So securing all of that information and making sure that that stuff is not ported out anywhere else where it's not supposed to be, and making sure that there's protocols on how to secure everything within those AI prompts and the different things that we do, that we kind of throw data out there today and we're not really sure where it goes, and making sure that we lock that down and protect it so that we're not putting stuff out there that we don't want to have out there. And I thought that was it was something I hadn't really thought about. I've just been using it. And I hadn't really thought about all of those additional security implications. And so when she put that up there, I was like, uh-oh, I gotta be a little bit more careful about things I put out there for AI. And that was not only professionally, but personally, Chat GPT and other things like that I leverage. Just be a little bit more careful about what I ask AI about.
That's exactly right. What you put to Chat GPT, does not stay between you and Chat GPT. It goes to the world. So, all right, let's move on to day 3. Day 3 was about community, and I wouldn't have thought, community and trolls, go hand in hand. But looks like CNCF has a new problem in its hand. So, Catherine, I know you attended this session. I know both Nathan and I think were AWOL on this keynote. So, can you tell us what's the big deal here?
Well, I think overall, CNCF is, it's part of the Linux Foundation, and it's a large community overall. I think, on the first day, they actually talked about how some of the projects and commercial entities for those projects, they're really starting to have to deal with patent trolls. And there's a new program to actually try and fight back against the patent trolls together as a community. But I think the real takeaway here was, your security only gets better with open standards. And then if you band together to go identify those patent trolls and find prior art to invalidate those patent trolls' claims, then this community becomes a lot more productive for everybody else. But, finding the patent troll.
Oh, did we lose Catherine?
Looks like it.
Looks that way. Well, I'll pick up where she left off, and maybe we'll get her back. But yeah, so one of the things that I saw most was the just the element of community, and that was fantastic. That probably I mentioned this in a LinkedIn post that it reminded me of like 2018 VMworld, back when we used to have VMworld, and just the tightness of people and how they were bonding together, and the patent troll process and kind of what they were putting up there about that was really leveraging that community in order to be able to go after these folks and work together to make sure that we're defending what we love. And I thought that was fantastic. And so I know Catherine's back, so I'll let her pick back up. But that was what I took away from the patent troll stuff.
Yeah, I have no idea where I dropped here, but it sounds like I think
that's okay, Catherine. Yeah, I mean, I think we're really glad you're back. Now, I do want to stress one point, right? I mean, we obviously saw a wide variety of topics, being discussed at KubeCon, but the three of us, I think we, independently, but came to a conclusion that there was one big topic which was, I think, completely ignored, and this was a glaring gap, I would say, at KubeCon, and this was the topic of modern virtualization, right? I'm sure many of you guys in this webinar know the situation with Broadcom and VMware. many of our own enterprises, right, are the customers that we serve are really worried about their runaway license costs, with the new changes that have happened at VMware, and they are looking for alternatives, right? And what was interesting was that I think we counted and we saw one session that explicitly mentioned KubeVirt, and which I thought was a glaring gap given the market and commercial interest around a solution like this. What do you think, Nathan and Catherine? I mean, was this a gap? What's your sense of what should be done here?
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought it was a gap. I mean, now granted, right? That's the background that I come from is infrastructure, and so whenever I go to a conference, I always look at those things, and I enjoy the DevOps aspect of what Kubernetes stands for. I mean, it's what we use it for, right? But I think that as it's maturing, right, as the platform is maturing, and we're looking at something that is that supports all comers, right? Because that's the whole purpose of Kubernetes in the first place, to kind of support everybody. It's a community thing. We have to start looking at modern virtualization. Not everybody is going to go and refactor stuff from day one. And so I think embracing that and embracing KubeVirt and being able to bring that in and talk about again that singular platform that we can provide to support everything, whether it's cloud native or traditional virtualization, getting it moved to Kubernetes and having Kubernetes be that standard, so that we, again, not to say that we there was an issue from a VMware perspective, but to be able to have something that is more open as part of that platform and supportive of a very large community where it's a community-driven effort, I think is really key. And so being able to have more focus around Kubernetes from an infrastructure standpoint and not just a DevOps standpoint, I thought that's what I really wanted to see. And I went to a couple of sessions that were labeled as KubeVirt, and I think they may have said it once, but that was about it. There wasn't a lot of substantive stuff that I could go and follow up on. So Catherine, I don't know if you had the same kind of experience in what you saw, but that was kind of my background.
Yeah, it was very similar. I went to one KubeVirt session. It was towards the end of the last day, and it was mainly focused on the highlights of the last couple of releases. So things that have already been out into the community, and it was a touch point for other folks to come talk to the maintainers. And I think what's so glaring is that we still see so many customers who are trying to figure out what the right path forward is, to Kalyan's point of, with the VMware acquisition, and whether we just lift and shift them or if there's another strategy. But if Kubernetes is going to be that all-consuming layer for the cloud or the hybrid cloud to take in VMware, I was surprised to see a little bit less of KubeVirt. And I don't think we saw any breakouts in the program of what that migration strategy or thought process looked like for organizations. That was really surprising to me.
Cool. So CNCF, if you're in the audience, you know what you need to do more of. At
more for Atlanta.
We need to
make Atlanta the
there you go.
The KubeVirt capital for next
year. KubeVirt special.
Yeah,
absolutely right. All right, look at the stuff, right? Slide here. There we go. Let's go into the fun stuff here. And like I said, 9,000 or 10,000 people showing up in Salt Lake City, one place, one time. There's always something cool to see out there, right? So let's start with the best booth. Nathan, I think you and I agreed. The best booth was from Wiz, right?
Oh,
without a doubt.
Dude, any booth that has Elvis the King as part of its booth has to win an award. I mean, the whole 50s diner, setup with the neon, and they were giving away donuts, and they all had, like the 50s diner outfits on. They had Elvis out front taking pictures with everybody. I mean, you talk about a draw. I had a hard time not walking there every time I walked into the room. It was just that much of a pull. Maybe I'm part moth. I don't know. I was drawn to the neon.
Right, and a close second was the which was co-branded by Rivian, Portworx, and SUSE, where we had an absolutely fantastic Rivian truck parked out there. People might have thought that the Rivian truck was a giveaway. It wasn't quite a giveaway. But
you can go buy one.
Blame it on Rivian.
Rivian would love for you to go purchase one. They're fantastic. And it was the SUV too, which I hadn't seen in person. I've only seen the trucks, but I got to see the SUV, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful vehicle.
Yeah. the best vendor attire, and I had to go back and remember who this person was. But Jonathan Phelps from a company called Test Cube. My God, he had the best sequin jacket out there. You could see him from a mile away, shining and glimmering out in KubeCon. So Jonathan Phelps, if you're listening, you win it hands down. The best swag was obviously, and we got a little, selfish here. It was our Portworx swag, right? So our little piggy, I think, stood out. And then the best animal companion. I would actually say the cutest person at KubeCon was this dog that I saw, just waiting for the expo to open so that this dog can go in and I guess pick up our own swag, right? I mean, the dog was looking for the Portworx piggy, I guess.
No, it's the
altogether.
It's the KubeCon corgi. That's what it was. It was fantastic.
Okay, I swear I actually saw like 3 dogs walking around the floor. There were more than one dog.
Yeah, so for people who come to KubeCon, not only do you get to see the event, not only do you get to learn something, but you also get to see some cute little furries walking around everywhere. So absolutely fantastic event. All right, so let's go to the takeaways here, guys. What were the key things that anyone who's in the audience today should take away from KubeCon? I mean, I can start first, right? I mean, first and foremost, I think the time for containers and Kubernetes has arrived, right? I mean, I met customers who are in financial services, telecom customers. I met a cardboard manufacturer, right? A container cardboard manufacturer. And they are planning to implement Kubernetes in containers. So it goes without a doubt that Kubernetes is here. Containers are here. If you're not in this bandwagon, you're essentially missing out, right? And so get on Kubernetes and containers. This is where the world is headed. Catherine, what stood out for you? It looks like we lost Nathan, and he may be back soon. Yeah, there we go. He's back soon.
Yeah, I think.
All right, Nathan. Yeah.
Oh, I've just always been impressed with how extensible Kubernetes is. I know it's been pretty agnostic since the beginning, and you add the CSIs and CNIs and device plugins and a lot of other extensibility points. But this ecosystem and Kubernetes itself has just grown so much and adapted to a more sophisticated set of workloads. Like you see that overall in the entire conference.
Good, Nathan. Anything else from your side in terms of takeaways?
Again, I'm an emotional guy, and it was community, right? It was the community of Kubernetes that was there. I thought that having this be my first KubeCon, and not having a comparison to look at from previous years, I always look at kind of how does this stack up in the industry, right? And where does it go from there? And it was the amount of I could have a conversation with anybody, and I did, because I'm chatty. It's kind of my nature. And so I had great conversations. I had great interactions. Everybody was there to drive for the common good, and it was just a great focus from that perspective. And again, I'm hoping next year that we do more on infrastructure, just because that's something I love, and I want to be able to bring that to the community. I want to add value too. And so I'd love to talk more about infrastructure and KubeVirt next year. But again, the community aspect of it was just amazing to me.
All right. I mean, it shows that we're very passionate people, especially passionate about this event. So I think we are pretty much on time here, and we may not have time to take any Q&A questions at this time. But I do want to thank everybody in the audience for attending this webinar, right? This is something that's very near and dear to us, Kubernetes, KubeCon, containers. We had a lot of fun, attending this event, learning from this event, and putting together this webinar. And like Nathan said, we are hoping that we will run into you in a future KubeCon. If you're in Atlanta, please reach out to Nathan. He may even take you to his home for all that you know.
Hey,
introduce you to his
we'll
amazing care.
We'll go get some Gladys Knight chicken and waffles. We're gonna have a great time. Just let me know when you come down. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to show you around.
All right. Wonderful, guys. So this is a wrap from us. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the year. Happy holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas to everybody who's attending. Thank you all. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye then.